Hello guys, and welcome to another ultimate guide for the manufacturer series. In this one I'm going to show you the combo and the round 6 of this manufacturer's exhibition season, which is at Deep Forest, and we are in Gr3 cars. As you can see here on your screen are the race settings for this race. So we've got 15 laps, we've got a 5-minute qualifying session, we've got no fuel in qualifying, we've got times 7 tyre wear in qualifying, and in the actual race it's times 2 fuel and also times 7 tyre wear, just like qualifying. As you can see, we have racing hards and mediums available, and we have to use both those tyres in the actual race. When it comes to our car restrictions, as you can see, the BOP is medium speed since we're at Deep Forest, but even more interestingly is the car settings that we are allowed to do for this particular round. So for brake balance, it's there as usual. We can always change our brake balance, but this time we can change parts of the suspension and parts of the differential, which is interesting because you can change the behavior of your car with a few tweaks to the settings, which is what I try to do a bit, just try to get my laptop a bit better. But yeah, as you can see, DRS on, SR's on as always, light damage as always, light shortcut penalties as always, contact penalty as always, and pit lane penalty as always. As you can see, as I'm recording, which is midday on a Friday, I'm 22nd in the world. I'm in the Porsche. In fact, I am the leading Porsche by quite a mile, at least from last I looked. There you go. Pepe Tox has just done a time there. So I'm just under a tenth ahead of him. But I'll share you my setup in a second. But one more thing is I'm going to firstly show my fastest qualifying lap, and then after actually no, right now I'll show you the car settings I'm using now. So here is the stock settings, as you can see here. So these stock settings, honestly, I did a 0.5 with that. So even with a bit of setup, I've only gained 2 temps. So it's not like you need setup to be fast here. It's just it might help with a little bit with tyre wear, and just you might want to change the behaviour of your car with these setups. So this is what I'm using. Feel free to copy it if you want. So this is exactly what I'm using. Let me just put it in quickly. So I'm using that. Sorry, wrong way. This is that. That is that. And that. So let me quickly describe to you what I'm looking for here. So here, as you can see, this is front anti-wall bar, which changes the front side of the tyres. So it connects between your left tyres in the front and your right tyres in the front. I put it a touch forward just to have a little bit more understeer initially, just so that I don't oversteer as I release the brakes. Basically, that is my intention there. I've got 9 here just to have it a touch loose on the exits, so I could get a little bit more rotation out of the corner exits. I could hopefully put a touch more. I could hopefully be a bit earlier on the throttle. Damping ratio, I've gone 20-20. I've gone as low as possible just to keep it as minimal movement as possible. You don't really use much curbs here, so you don't really need to race it. If you're planning to cut one of the corners, you might want to race this a touch up to maybe about 25, like stock settings. Stock settings for me were okay for the bumps. 20-20, 50-50 is a bit sketchy over the curves, but I'm not really planning to use them anyway, especially on the controller. Similar to this, 50. Again, I'm trying to limit movement. I think the further, the more stiffer it is, if there's less movements, well, you got more stretch. I don't really know how to explain it, but I found it fastest like this anyway. That's what matters. Put this as low as possible because I want to have as soon as I put the throttle down, I want there to be power. That's basically my ideal here for this. Acceleration sensitivity, again, as soon as I put the throttle down, I want to be going. That's why it's on 60. And braking sensitivity, I would usually have it lower down, but in the Porsche, especially with the current settings I had, I played around with each one separately, but I had it at this and this at 5 initially, and the car just oversteered so much when I released the brakes. So I played around with it, and until 40, it's still a tiny bit oversteers on when you release the brakes, but it's manageable. That I can, attack the exit of a corner more, which is why I have it all the way up, for example. So that is my setup. Now I'm going to show you my fastest lap, followed by the detailed lap afterwards, and then I'm going to show you a race one after with commentary in the background. So I hope you enjoy. A like and sub as always would be appreciated. Cheers, let's get into it. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed that lap. Now I'm going to show you the fastest lap that I did in time trial. It's, to be honest, very slightly different setup to what I was showing you now, but that's just because I didn't put a lap together with the current setup that I put in the video. I do think that setup is slightly faster than the lap I'm showing you here. So I think I could get into the mid point twos, the low point twos with the setup I've just shown if I was to hook the lap up. But anyway, keyword for this, honestly, is managing oversteer, at least for me, with my setup. Obviously, you guys can play around with setups and that. I can try give you an idea of what I'd use. If you don't know what you're doing with setups, I can try leave some suggestions in the comments, but I'm not really good with setup in general. Like, I usually copy people's setups, but I wanted to try and do it myself so I can learn myself for the future. So I hope this kind of helps. But anyway, I'm going to quickly go over the lap guide because I don't want to drag the video too long. So, first corner. There's the beginning of the curve here, there's a 100 marker here. I'm braking literally halfway between the two. So I'll say about 105 meters. That is where I'm braking. Probably a good braking reference is this guardrail here, the second one before the 100. I'm braking in a straight line and I'm going to pause it on an apex because what I'm going to be trying to describe to you is quite important. But initially you're braking in a straight line, you're going to turn quite early since it's quite a wide corner, and you want to hook the inside curb if possible because it helps you rotate around the corner. So I'm going to pause it here. So now I'm halfway through the corner. Try to aim to have your left tyres at least not be on this grey part of the corner because I felt it understeered a bit, slash has less grip if your left rear was on that. So it felt like I couldn't go on the force earlier, and it felt like I was understeering more on the exit. So try and get your left tyre to hook onto the curb, if not at least on this part of the track here, because that's just where the grip is, and you don't want to understeer and have no rotation through the corner. I was aiming to be about 58, 59 mile an hour for this corner. Going throttle halfway through the corner, plant the throttle. Basically turn left here just to open up the next corner. Easy throttle, of course. As soon as you get to the end of this curve here, I do a small lift, and I literally mean a small lift. I might even tap the brake, and I'm going to be going down, straight down to third gear again, just because it felt more stable in third gear for me. Also, try to aim to have your left tyres be all over this red and white curb. You can have your right wheels go over the grass, it's still stable there, as long as you have a bit of throttle input down, at least 30% I would say. As soon as I get out of the corner, my next braking reference is this last tree trunk here, and it's a small tap of the brakes again. I'm aiming to be about 94 mile an hour in this left part of the corner. I forgot to mention also, I aim to be about, I believe it was 118 mile an hour in this corner. So it was 108 or 118. Let me look at the comments quickly. It was 108 mile an hour. I was aiming to be for that corner there. This corner 93ish, 94ish. On this lap, I think I cut into curves, but you don't have to. It's just very slightly quicker. Yeah, like that. It's very inconsistent on controller when you do that. You basically have to completely have no inputs, and you can't fully turn either, otherwise you'll just suffer from bumps. I'm not going to be doing this in the actual qualifying race probably, because it's just not worth the risk for a couple hundredths in my opinion. But anyway, just aim to have your left tyres as close to this rumble curb as possible then, like you'll see in my race I'll show later on. But after that, as soon as I get over the curbs, I basically brake at the end of this curve here, basically between the end of the curve here and the end of this like grey tarmac bit here. As you can see, my ABS light is actually showing, so I'm braking at the end of the curve here. Aim to have your right tyres hook onto this curve again, just to help drag you around. But if you do touch the grass, you will understeer a lot, and you might even oversteer as well, depending on your car setup. I was aiming to be 70 mile an hour for this corner. Use all the exit without touching the barrier, of course. Next corner, I literally brake at the end of this curve again. I'm going to downshift straight away to second, and I'm going to be aiming to be about 64 mile an hour throughout this corner. I'd like to take a slightly wider approach and then turn in a bit. can have your inside wheels go inside this right line. You may feel there's a bit less grip on it, but for me anyway in my Porsche, I had still very good grip doing this line. I just had to be a touch careful on the throttle, because if I was too eager, I would oversteer or understeer too wide. Use all the exit. I'm still on the inside here, minimize distance. Next corner, difficult, but I basically use this bollard as a small braking reference, and I literally mean, again, a small braking reference, about 30% brakes, and only for a very slight amount of time, until I went down to about 98, 99, 100 mile an hour for this corner. It depended on when you turned in though, on how much speed you can carry. Try to touch the inside curb as well without touching the grass, because the curb does hook you on the corner a bit there. Let the car roll a bit throughout the corner. As soon as you get off the curb, put the throttle down. Try not to put too much steering in, that you will understeer as well. Try to do about 70-80% steering instead of 100 if you can help it. This corner, I broke literally as soon as I got to the bridge, breaking a straight line. Go. Sometimes I downshift first, sometimes I just stay in second. It depended on when I broke, to be honest. If I felt like I broke a bit early, I'll just stay in second. If I felt I broke a bit late, I'll downshift first just to try to get a touch more rotation and a bit more engine braking. But just aim to be about 60-61 mile an hour by the time you get to the apex. Don't turn too late either, otherwise you'll just understeer. Use all the exit curb, all of it. A lot of grip out there. But don't put too much steering as you get to that point, otherwise you'll oversteer and crash into the inside barrier potentially. Anyway, last corner, by far the most difficult corner on this track, and maybe even in this game. It is up there as the most difficult corner. For me, very easy reference though in this car. For you, you'll probably have to brake earlier than me if you're not in a Porsche, just because the Porsche's got the best Group 3 brakes. It's got the best brakes in Group 3, sorry, and it's not the quickest on a straight either, so I can brake a bit late. The fastest cars on straight might even be looking to brake as soon as you get under the side, maybe in like a Dodge Viper, but in my car, I'm braking on this shadow here, literally on the shadow, maybe a meter before the shadow, if I was to be precise. I'm going to be braking a straight line. In this corner, you want to turn it a bit early for the apex, because I find if you turn a bit late for this corner, you just understeer and you lose so much time on the entry. So it's better to turn a bit early than a bit late, in my opinion. So here, aim to have your left tyres touch this red and right part of the curb, but it doesn't matter if you just miss it. As long as you're close to it at least, that's all that matters. You just need to carry speed and momentum throughout the entire corner. So if you're a mile an hour too slow, that's going to cost you a bit of time. One, on the exit, because you might have to deal with more torque since you're lowering the revs. But two, you're losing time on the entry and the braking phase because you broke early, of course. So try to nail it. Practice this corner. Very important corner. In the race, you'll want to defend the inside 100 out of 100 times as well. There you go. And I was aiming to be about 40 mile an hour for this last corner. As soon as I got halfway around the corner, I put the throttle down, use all the exit curb. As long as your left wheels is touching the red and right part of the curb, it's not a track limit penalty. Use all that exit curb. Just don't put too much steering in it as soon as you get out there, because you may oversteer since there's less grip once you leave the track, obviously. And that is a 126 317. There you go. 120. Okay, sorry. There you go. 126 317. But now I'm going to show you a race stint of what I did, and hopefully that's helped you. Any questions on braking references and that, put in the comments below and I'll answer to the best of my ability as always. Of course, take it with a grain of salt, because my car has the best brakes in Group 3 and it's quite slow on the straights compared to most other cars. So you'll probably have to brake slightly earlier compared to me, but just take it as references. Cheers guys, and on to the race stint we go. Hello guys, so here is the race section of the video. So if you remember from the intro of the video, this race is 15 laps and there is times 2 fuel and times 7 tyre, sorry. And we have to use both the racing hard tyres and the racing mediums. So I start with the racing hard tyres because I don't know if that happens in lobbies, but at least in sport mode races, the start of the race, the tyres start 10 degrees hotter compared to the tyres you come out the pits with when you make a pit stop. So I think the tyres start the race at 70 degrees Celsius, but when you come out the pits, I believe they're 60 degrees Celsius, which is why I prefer to use the soft tyres later on in the race, because one, the fuel's down, so you're carrying less weight, so the tyre won't have to put up with as much weight, so theoretically it should be less tyre wear, and two, because it starts at lower temperature, it takes longer for them to get up to temperature and to overheat, so the tyre wear is better in second stint compared to first stint, which is why you tend to see people go hard tyres first stint and medium second stint, etc. So that's why I personally recommend starting on hard tyres compared to medium. Another reason I'd recommend starting on hard tyres is because custom slipstream is very powerful. It is likely that even if you're a full sitter and you're on mediums, the person on the hard tyre can theoretically keep up with you on the medium tyres. Especially if they get bump drafted from the guys behind them. Also, if they're stuck with you throughout their first stint, it is likely that they will undercut you by pitting earlier to get onto the medium tyres compared to you going onto the hard tyres on the later lap. They will undercut you and you will not be able to follow them in slipstream, because the gap in between the pit stop faces would have been too much, but you would have lost their slipstream already, since it's going to be well over a second difference between your in lap and the out lap, if you understand what I'm trying to say. But anyway, so it's a 15 lap race, so it's about 1 minute 27 average from memory, so it's about a 22.5 minute race, including the pit stop. So I'm going to try and just talk about everything in these next 20 minutes or so. So basically, so this is the plan for this race, at least for me. So as you can see, I'll be using the same setup as I did in the intro of my video, so around the 5 minute marker. You can rewind, it's around the 5 minute marker where you'll see my setup. I'll also post this screenshot of my setup at the end of the video, so you'll be able to see it for 5 seconds. Just pause it after the race section of the video, I'll show you the setup and you can just copy it from there. Remember, I am in the Porsche though, so just because my setup works in a Porsche doesn't mean my setup will work on your car, especially if you are in an FR car. If you're in an FR car, I basically do the opposite anti-roll bars from what you saw in my Porsche. So if you remember, I use 6 anti-roll bar on the front and 9 anti-roll bar on the rear. In an FR car, such as maybe like a BMW M6 or Jaguar F-Type, etc., I would go 9 on the front and 6 in the rear. Just to change the characteristics of the car and get slightly more or slightly less understeer in the corners. Not understeer, but slightly, you have more stability going through so to speak corners, especially. That is what I'd be trying to do anyway. I just feel more stable in general. Just at least from when I did setups in FR cars over a year ago, like, you know, back when every daily GTWS had those setups with natural frequency and that. So yes, but remember, you can change the anti-roll bars for the actual not natural frequency, but like the suspension part, the dampers. Sorry, there you go, the dampers. It's the expansion part and the compression parts you can change. That's it. And then you can also change the differential of the car, not the you can only change like 3 bits of the torque part. So you can change the initial torque, you can change the acceleration sensitivity, and you can change the brake sensitivity. Play around with the setup, you know. It took me about 2 hours to get the setup I was looking for. So what I initially did was I did a good lap with the base setup first, just to, you know, have a good feel of what the car was doing around the lap, and, you know, see where I think I could gain time on particular corners, or in the braking zones, out of the corners, or on tyre wear. I didn't do setup with tyre wear, but you'll see from this race, my tyre wear is quite equal between the rear and the front. It's slightly worse on the front, but the Porsche is quite bad on front tyre wear in general, so it'll be quite difficult to get it even on the rear tyres and the front tyres. especially for Porsche, and I don't want to make this car a bit more. I don't want to make this car more oversteer if possible, because I felt if I had a bit more oversteer, I was less consistent with it. So I'm not going to change the setup between this video now and the actual races I'll be doing. I'll very likely be doing the same setup, unless I find something out while I'm doing the races where I'm like, okay, something that feels off. I may change that just to, you know, make it a bit better for myself. But anyway, like I said, it's times 7 tyre wear, which is quite brutal. So you're very likely going to be doing one half of a race on the racing hard tyres and another half of a race on the medium tyres. So with setup, I would experiment with both the hard and medium tyres. If it feels good with the hard tyres, amazing. But it doesn't feel good with the mediums, then change it. Because you've got to remember, you can change setup in between qualifying and the race, I believe. However, you only have a minute or so to do it, and you can easily forget to do it. So I would personally, and this is what I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be using the same setup in between the race and the qualifying. Just so that I don't have to think about changing the setups in between the races, in between qualifying and the race. I don't want to, you know, don't want to distract myself having to think about changing setups while I'm on a qualifying lap, because you want to put all your focus into that qualifying lap instead of thinking, okay, I need to put my effort into qualifying, but at the same time I need to remember to change the setup for the race. So, like I said, times 7 tyre wear. So this is my only race when I did. I looked at the tyre wear at the moment, it's like 15% tyre wear. I'm like, okay, I've done 5 laps, but about 15% tyre wear. Theoretically, the mediums should wear about twice as fast. So I will have about 30, maybe even a bit more than 30% tyre wear if I was to be on the mediums right now. Which is why I'm thinking of doing 6 laps on the hards listing and 9 laps on the mediums. So if you think about it, 63 laps on the mediums is quite a lot of laps. But I will be tyre saving on the medium stint so I think 9 laps should be the right distance. If not, it's 8 or 9. As you'll see, actually I won't spoil it, I'll talk more about it towards the end of the race, what I think that optimal strat will be. But you've got to take into consideration the custom slip. If a car had a few pits on the same tyres, it's probably a good idea to follow them and just tyre save behind them and try and overtake them at the end. That is what I'm going to be trying to do in my race, because I feel like if I was to be leading the train, that's a disadvantage for me, because my car is quite slow on the straights. It's better for me to follow the car and use their slipstream and save tyres, and then I can try and go for a send from the outside or down the inside or out of nowhere at the end of the race where I've been looking after my tyres. So yeah, so as you can see right now, lap 6, I'm still looking to be doing low 28s and high 27s. That will be my aim on the hard stint. So this lap is actually very good in lap, since like I said, I'm going to be in lap 6 and doing 9 laps. And this is just an experiment. It's not necessarily the optimum strat. I just want to test how long I think the mediums can last for the pace I want to be doing. So I'm not going to be fully pushing on the mediums, because if you were to push for the medium stint, you'll be overheating the front right tyre on this track, because turn 1, especially the exit, you are relying a lot on your front right tyre, since it's having to do all the turning while putting the throttle down at the same time. So the front tyres will be scrubbing, especially the front right. So I'm aiming to be initially turning quite hard just to get it onto the apex, but as I put the throttle down, I'm going to be turning less. I'll talk about when tyre saving in a second. I'm just basically trying to say the front right tyre takes a beating on this track. So on the medium stint especially, you want to be tyre saving, because if you overheat the mediums, then the tyre wear will degrade a lot faster, and you'll also start to suffer with a lot more understeer in general, since you won't get the peak performance from that tyre. So now I'm going to describe to you where I'm going to be tyre saving mainly. So I'm going to be doing this on a hard stint as well, but not quite as severe, because obviously the hard tyre takes longer to heat up, and plus it won't get to as high temperature just because you're not going to be going as fast around the corner. At least that's what makes sense in my head. I'm not actually sure if that's how Pirelli implemented it. I don't know how they implemented the tyre temp in general. I just know that as soon as you put the throttle down and you're turning, the tyre temps increase a lot, which is why I'm going to be trying to limit that as much as possible. So, what I'm going to be tyre saving. like I said already, I am tyre saving turn 1, especially on the exit. So basically I'm going to be turning 100% initially, and I'm going to be exiting about 50% turning input. So as you can see right now, I'm making 100%, turning in, I'm about 100% turning. As soon as I put the throttle down, you see I've put a lot less steering in, just to put less load into my front right tyre as I'm exiting the corner, just to keep the temperature as far down as possible. Another corner tyre saving, this corner, top of the brakes, small turning, about 50% again. Don't put throttle down if possible, just keep it. You can have throttle down, but I wouldn't have it past 40% where you're gaining speed. Because if you were to gain speed and turn, that is when the tyre starts to, not the tyre, that's when the tyre temp starts to rise, and you want to keep it as low as possible. Another corner I'm tyre saving at, and this is by far the most important tyre saving corner in my opinion, is the second to last corner of S2. I'll try to describe it the next time we go around there, but I'm basically going to be doing a tap for brakes. I'm going to be as close to the curb as possible. Try to use that curb, but not too much, because if you were to use too much curb, it may oversteer, especially if you touch the grass. But basically I'm going to be trying to do 20 to 30% steering on that corner. It does not sound like much, but honestly on that corner, 30% steering is more than enough to get around that corner at still a very good speed. You don't need much steering on that corner. I believe it's slightly cambered, which helps. So I'm tyre saving a lot there. And the last, well actually no, it's not the last corner I'm tyre saving, but the last corner I'm tyre saving in the actual corner is the corner after it. So again, I'm going to be turning quite heavily in for like turn 1, but I'm going to try to limit the steering as soon as I get towards the exit of that corner, just so that again I don't put too much load into my front right tyre as I'm leaving the corner. So here we go, we are now going to come up to the biggest tyre saving corner. Look at my steering input, it's very light. So when you want to put the throttle down, you want to have ideally 30% steering input. 40% is okay as well. I'll try to keep it around 40%. As soon as you start to put a bit more steering input in, that's when you'll notice that your front right tyre will overheat on this track. And like I said earlier, as soon as you overheat your tyre, you're just going to get a lot worse tyre and going to understeer a lot, which will cost you a lot more that time than you initially might think. Also, there's I'm tyre saving in this last corner as well, but not with my steering, with my braking if I can. So what I'm going to be trying to do is, I'm going to be braking in a straight line in the last corner, but as soon as I start to turn it, I'm going to try and completely lift off the brakes, if not try to I'm going to try and limit my steering, my braking sorry, as I get it turned into the corner. Because since it's a very slow corner, at least on the controller, you need to put as much steering as possible just to get around the corner in a decent speed. So if you were to try and steer less in that corner, you just won't be able to carry the speed, and you'll lose so much time in that corner, just because in slower corners you tend to need more steering angle. But like I said, what I try to explain, is I'm going to be braking 100% in a straight line. So as soon as I start to feel like I need to turn for the corner, I'm going to start to put a bit less brake pressure down. As soon as I get very close to the apex corner, I'm going to try and completely lift off the brakes, just so again I'm not putting the load onto that front right tyre as I am braking and turning at the same time. That is not good for tyres. So if you were to brake and steer, that would destroy the front right tyre, because if you think about it, as you brake, the more you've got a lot of brake force going towards the front of the car, so your car kind of like nosedives in. So more weight of a car goes towards the front as you put the brakes down. So if you were to steer while your car has the weight at the front, it will just shred the front right tyre. So if the right tyre is having to carry more weight if it is braking. So you want to try and limit the weight on the front right tyre as much as possible, and just to limit the steering as much as possible. That is where I'm tyre saving for this combination anyway. Last thing, qualifying. So remember I said it was 5 minutes of the intro of the video. So with a roughly 1 minute 26s, mid 126s, you'll probably be seeing in qualifying. You will have time to do 3 laps, just I think everyone will just have enough time to do 3 laps. Whether you come out last in the pits at the back, you should have time still to do 3 laps, as long as you get a move on and not, you know, dawdle along. That's not the right word, but you understand the word I'm trying to say. You can't just creep on the corner at your own pace, not putting much stress into the tyres. If you're wanting to get 3 laps in this qualifying session, which I would probably try and recommend, since it's not the easiest track to nail, especially with the last corner on this track, in my opinion, try and get the 3 laps. What I'm probably going to be trying to do is, I'm going to do my out lap and I'm going to do my flying lap. As soon as I've done my first flying lap, I'm probably going to exit and come back out of the pits, because like I said, it's time 7 tyre wear, which is quite a lot. So you'll start to notice the tyre wear on your second flying lap already, probably, especially if you're fully pushing every single corner. You'll be putting a lot of stress onto that front right tyre, so it'll very easily overheat. So in my opinion, it is better if you can, and I think you can only do it if you get out of the pits very early, is I'm going to be doing my out lap. I'm going to try and not push fully on my out lap, but I'm still going to be like sort of like race. I'm going to be pushing on the right corners, but I'm going to be doing like 50-60% steering on the left handers, just so that it's enough tense, but it's not too low that I will start to suffer oversteer as I release the brakes or out the corners, but it's enough tense that you know, there's enough tense into turn 1 where it's stable on that, and it doesn't overheat at the end of the lap. So I have peak tyre performance throughout the lap, which is why I recommend doing your out lap, do your first flying lap, but as soon as you've done your first flying lap, exit, go straight back out the pits and do your final flying lap. But I would personally only do that if your first lap is good. If your first lap is not good, especially in the lower lobbies, I would probably just carry on with your second flying lap, because advanced is going to be so important on this track, because you don't want to start on the lower end of this track, because like I said earlier, it's custom slipstream. Custom slipstream is very powerful. The car ahead will likely stay in the slipstream train to the car ahead of them, etc, etc, etc. So it'll be harder for you to overtake a car further back on the grid, because that car will be using the other car's slipstream. So while you pull out their slipstream, you're going to be having to face all the air at you, all the wind, etc. So you won't have the advantage of the extra straight line speed of the slipstream, whereas the car behind, ahead of you, like the battling, will still be in the slipstream and still be gaining time on the straights, but by the time they get to the braking point in the corner, they're going to be more than a car length ahead, and they can just defend the corner anyway. So qualifying still matters a lot here. Even though there's quite high tyre wear, there's a lot of long straights. I say a lot of long straights. There's 2 very long straights with 2 very heavy braking points, which creates great racing. But recommend defending the inside on the last corner especially, and I would also try and defend the inside of the first turn. However, outside of turn 1 is also good if you can trust the guy ahead of you to leave you a car width on the exit. The reason I say this is because, like I said on my track guide, for turn 1, if you hit the grey part of the track, you will understeer a little bit, so you can't put the throttle down as early. If you were to be on the outside of that corner, you could judge it and, you know, go off the grey part of the track, use the normal track surface, try going the throttle earlier, and try to get a good run out of the corner, so that you can overtake them before the right-hander for the next corner. If not, be side to side at least, and since you're on the inside on quite a tricky corner that narrows a bit on the exit, you're likely going to be the one that comes out ahead compared to the opponent. So one last thing, so I've got about a couple minutes left of this video, so I'm going to very quickly say, for the racetrack, I think the optimum is lap 7 on hard, and then do 8 laps on the mediums, but that is the optimum strat for the race time. In my opinion though, you will see some people pit lap 6. If you qualify towards the back, I would probably recommend pitting lap 6 if you can tyre save only, because like I said, if you can't tyre save, the front right will take a battering, and you'll just have no tyres at the end, and you'll just understeer every single one. So if you struggle with tyres, I'd honestly recommend doing 8 laps on hards, 7 laps on mediums. I'm going to be aiming to do 7 laps on hards, 8 laps on the mediums. Unless I was to have a bad qualifying session where I need to undercut people, then I'll probably be doing a lap 6 pits and doing 9 laps on the mediums. But you'll have to tyre save a lot if you're planning to do 9 laps on the mediums, especially if you're in an FR car that suffers from tyre wear, such as the WRX, the Mitsubishi Evo, the Jaguar F-Type, basically every FR car that isn't the M6 will suffer a lot of tyre wear on the front. So I'd recommend doing 7 laps hard at least. Since it's time 7 tyre wear, it is very brutal. So without further ado, I'm going to do the outro of my video now for the last minute or so. So I want to say, first of all, huge thanks for the recent support of my videos. I'm getting on average about 1,000 views that aren't race videos, and I'm not surprised my race videos don't do as well, because people like to hear my thought process on the guides on what I'm doing, braking references and that, which I don't really talk about in the race videos, since race videos I just want to be showing my qualifying and my race and have a bit of commentary in the background. For these sort of videos I like to do lap guides, tyre saving, corners, what I'm doing, my logic on the slipstream and that, what I think the optimum strat is. So for example, in this race you want to be staying to the car ahead of you. If they pit, you likely pit with them, tyre save behind them, attack at the end. But without further ado, I would appreciate a like and a sub. As always, I love your support and I'll carry on with these. I love doing this, so I'll carry on. I'm grateful to you all. Good luck with this race tomorrow if you see it on Friday. If it's on Saturday, good luck today. And I'm going to show you my setup now as a reminder. Cheers.